Pro Football Hall of Famer John Madden and former Falcons head coach Dan Reeves died 3 days apart. One man who knew both lives in Atlanta. Monte Johnson has had an extraordinary life. Played for the Oakland Raiders under Madden, later befriended Reeves. He is a great man of faith and an extraordinary businessman. And I spoke with him recently about both men.
John Madden to you, I think for those of us who didn't play the game, who remember him certainly as a coach with the Raiders, if you're old enough, and grew up listening to him on the television. But he's more than that. Your perspective of him and his meaning to professional football is defined by what?
He was a teacher. He was always looking to advance you wherever you were in whatever situation that you were in. In '75, we were playing in Denver, and I made a tackle on the sidelines and fell on the chain marker and hurt my back and, didn't finish the game. And it was questionable whether or not I was going to play the next week. Well, John didn't know if I was going to play or not. And so he had to make a decision. And the decision that he made was he was going to start Ted Hendricks as middle linebacker. And I'm in the locker room getting ready to go out after my treatment. And I'm hearing guys are talking and they're going, "Hey, did you hear Ted's going to start for Monty?" And I'm hearing that and I'm going, "What?" I get up, here I am. I'm 24 years old, right? I'm this young kid. Storm down into the coach's office and I go, "I want to talk to John. I want to talk to John." Yeah. John comes walking out and he sits behind his desk. And I said, "Is it true?" I said, "Is Ted starting in my place?" And he goes, "Yeah, he is, Monty." Well, as any 2-year-old would do, because that's what I was like at that moment, I stood up, I kicked the chair with the back of my heel, knocked it over, walked out into the hallway. And the only words that I heard John saying was very calmly, "Monty, I would suggest that you come back here, because if you don't, every minute that you're going to be gone, it's going to cost you $5,000. That's a lot of money in 1975. So I turned around, humbled myself, pouted, sat down, kind of gruffled. And he said, "Do you have a quarter?" And I said, "What?" He says, "Do you have a quarter?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, show it to me." So I reached in my pocket and pulled it out. And he says, "What do you see?" I said, "Well, I see a quarter." He goes, "Monty, no, that's what it is. I asked you, what do you see?" And I said, "Well, I see George Washington and I see the date and I see In God We Trust." And he goes, "Well, I don't see any of that." And then I paused and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, he's trying to teach me something here. And he sat back and he said, "Monty, one of the things that you need to learn as a leader is that in every situation, there's two sides to the story. And what you need to understand is I gave Ted my word that he was going to start in your place. So what am I supposed to do? Go down and tell him, he's not going to start after I told him he was going to start?" I said, "Nothing would make me happier, Monty, for you to be able to play and be in this game." He said, "But I told Ted he's going to start, and you need to understand that." I have never forgot that lesson. And every time I see a quarter, I think of John Madden.
A couple of days after the death of Coach Madden, the death of Coach Reeves, Dan Reeves' loss, not only to pro football, but to the Atlanta community as well.
It's used often, but I think it's totally appropriate in this situation. Is that, the way you described Dan Reeves is he was a humble man. But at the same time, too, you took him seriously. He was a first player coach, was a player and also was a coach. He transitioned into coaching and did a tremendous job. He and I got to know each other when we lived in Atlanta, and we just ran into each other and started talking to him. I went up and introduced myself because he would not have known me from Adam, because it was, well past, my career, if you will. But he remembered me, and we talked, and he said, "Hey, do you remember that game in Oakland when we played you guys on a Saturday night?" And I go, "Yeah, I remember." And we talked a little bit, and then I would see him up at Lake Raymond, and we would be at boat church, and we'd go over and we'd say hello and chit chat for a little bit, and then pick up the newspaper and we really saw it come through on the internet that he had passed. It was such a surprise, a disappointment to a situation where, once again, the phrases are said too often, but someone taken too early. He had a lot more to contribute and to give.
Yeah, well said. Monte Johnson, thank you for your time and your thoughts on John Madden and Dan Reeves, and we appreciate.
Well, Jeff, thank you. I appreciate the fact that someone that would remember an old Oakland Raider living in Atlanta.
Oh, we remember Monte Johnson. Oh, yes, sirree.